It's now 18 minutes after 7. It's time for The Way It Is. And in case you're joining us now, good to have you. And on The Way It Is, what we do, we reflect on what has been happening over the weekend, specifically politically speaking. And we do know that Mombasa was where our eyes were trained on this weekend as we had the third Building Bridges Initiative rally. But this time it was slightly different because we had those allied to the Deputy President, the likes of Kipchumba Murkomen and others who made sure that they were going to attend the rally. Initially, it was thought that there was going to be a showdown, but of course, now we know what happened. This, of course, sets up the question that we had asked this morning, and according to what was said there, it looks like Kenya may be headed for a referendum. Whether that's going to happen or not remains to be seen. But the question that we had asked earlier on is, do you think the country will be able to hold a referendum before the next general election? That would be 2022. And the question is, do you think that the country will be able to hold a referendum before the next general election? From what the leaders say in Mombasa, it looks like a referendum would be inevitable. Specifically, Honorable James Orengo did mention, and he said that it's inevitable. If I would quote Raila, he said, nobody can stop reggae. We have David Osido, who's answering to the question this morning, and he says that the country will hold a referendum. The question should be, will it be a genuine referendum? BBI was a good idea, but has been overtaken by politicians showing their differences. We have Matthew Ondoro, who says, yes, the country is able and stable enough. Let's agree on one thing as one nation for the future of our generation, and we will not be quarreling over everything every now and then. Kapti Randich says, shida sio referendum. Anything political can be realized, but mambo na economy get lip service. Hefty loans from the Chinese will do. Just as a refresher, let's just listen to what some of the leaders had to say during the conference in Mombasa, or rather the gathering in Mombasa.
Ikiwa pamoja na kuwa na Prime Minister na Deputy Prime Minister, lazima Kenya iende referendum.
Mimi naomba tuwache mambo ya 2022, ndani ya mwezi 7 tuwe na referendum. Tulisema ati hii mazungumzo ambayo yanaendelea mbele ni kujaribu kutajirisha ile pendekezo ambayo iko ndani ya ile report ya BBI. Ndio sababu tunaanza kwanza na madelegates, wanakutana, wanapitisha resolution, inasomwa kwa wananchi kwa jumla.
BBI represents the third and final liberation of the Republic of Kenya. Na hata hiyo BBI, vile Mheshimiwa Junet hapa amesema, hata mambo ya cat rustling itaisha.
And the referendum is inevitable, lazima ifanyike to implement these matters.
Kwa sababu kila mtu sasa amekubali, huwezi ukagusa chapters fulani za Constitution 2010 bila kuenda kwa mambo ya referendum.
Wakipanua kule juu pia tuongeze kiti ya kina mama, si ndio? Pia kina mama wakuwe kule juu, ndio tukuwe na uongozi sawa wa gender equality.
All right, and that's some of what the leaders had to say. And gentlemen, it sometimes gets very confusing when we listen to our leaders. It seems like they've already, come up with the conclusion that Kenya needs a referendum. I'm not sure whether that's what Kenyans feel or whether that's what leaders feel. Looking at the governor, Waiguru, there saying, wakipanua kule juu, in that, of course, talking about an executive, a wider executive, then tuongeze viti za mama. Sounds to the mwananchi sometimes like we're just pushing for more jobs. Let me start with you, Honorable Joe Mtambo. From what happened in Mombasa, do you feel that Kenyans are more educated, more equipped in understanding that we need a referendum, or even if we need one at all?
Michael, how many times will I have to repeat to you on this page here? And I'm saying this without any fear of any contradiction, that it does not matter
what the Kenyans feel.
What Kenyans feel. It does not matter whether you like it or not. And that narrative has been there since Sharif Nasir age. Wapende, wasipende. it has been there. So it is not what Kenyans think. It is not what Kenyans want. It is what we, the leaders, want. And that's it.
Do you feel that
it's quite unfortunate. And that's why I'm saying, from here, we should think of BBI mashinani, so that we get to know what Kenyans want. If I was the driver of this BBI, I could have started in the village.
But you've just said it doesn't matter what Kenyans want. So even if you have BBI mashinani,
but
it looks
because
like it's cast
the
in
norm
stone.
and the way it is that it is what we want to be done. If the leaders sit in Mombasa and agree, let us have the retire, and everybody who is in that table agrees that is it. You, Michael, with your good English and good suit, you have no say. You have no say. You will have to follow that. And if you do not follow that, you are not part of us.
You're not part of us, the political leadership here.
That is the big problem we are having in this country, and that is what is making me sick.
Okay.
I wish we could give Kenyans chance. Whether you are elected or not elected, whether you are old or not old, whether you are educated or not educated, I wish you could be given a chance to say what you want. But this one, it is for a certain
The political class. All right, Michael Agwanda, let me come to you. Do you agree that regardless of what Kenyans may want or feel is necessary for us, it looks like it's already cast in stone? It looks like the aircraft of BBI has already taken off, and at some point, when we hit cruising speed, what we're going to be having is a referendum?
I see a situation where basically what we're going to have is a referendum, whether we like it or not. I also agree with my colleagues that if you're against this wind and wave of the referendum in this country, then the terminology they'll use is you are against us. Remember, we're in a very precarious situation, a situation where the president and the opposition leader have come together and they're saying, this is the direction you're going to follow. Nobody can stop it. No one can stop it because many cases we've seen the history of this country. The only person that was able to authoritatively and with a lot of strength and vigor and use all manner of tricks to push the government to a discussion in any matter that perhaps was out there was the opposition leader, and that is a former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. Now, in a place where he's now in one unity with the president, who else will come out there? Perhaps Miguna, but Miguna has not even been given access to this country. I'm not saying that he will, but I'm just, saying that maybe Miguna is probably the only person that is now seeing as opposing to the system. But everybody now is for and pro the system. And so if they say a referendum is going to take place,
it's going to happen.
I tell you, it will happen because we were having opposition from Tangatanga group of this BBI process. And now you've seen what has happened. They've actually realized that each and every one of them, I mean, everything else for everybody, but God for us all. Everyone is carrying their own cross. And even some of those people that were ardent supporters of Tangatanga group are suddenly realizing that if we don't support this is going to affect us as individuals, not as a group of Tangatanga, and so suddenly they've realized that, hey, God for us all, but as individuals, we got to take the responsibility. And so you're starting to see them go. We are starting to see some few leaders going to BBI and say, I support BBI. We're starting, the deputy president has not come out very categorically, but you can see people around him starting to say yes. So in other words, there is no opposition to the BBI, there is no opposition to the referendum, and it will take place. The only fundamental thing that perhaps we need to think and ask ourselves is, will the people vote on the basis of what they know, either no or yes, or will they vote the BBI because they've been told to vote for the BBI.
For the BBI.
The trend of this country, however, as I conclude on this, is that we've been voting based on what
they're
told.
Canon Weda, are we ready as a country for a referendum? And secondly, we do know that the current document, which of course we've said time and again needs to be distributed to Kenyans to read, do we even know if we're going for a referendum? What exactly are we voting for, yes or no?
Are we ready for a referendum? My answer is no. We are not even ready for the locusts.
Let alone the referendum.
Let alone the referendum that requires 50, 60 billion. When dealing with the locusts, which requires 1 or 2, 3 billion, is a problem. Do we know what we are talking about in the BBI? Until the bill is formulated, the constitutional amendment bill, so that this is exactly what we are going to put in the constitution. For now, I think groundwork is being done for it, so that by the time it comes, you don't read it. Then you say, we had agreed.
The same we did with Constitution 20.
Yes. So that at least that one, it was people looked at it. There were various groups, there were various non-governmental organizations and civil societies looking at it, individuals, the law society. But now we are dancing over a report which has not been released to the public. It was just released in a wedding ceremony, and then we embrace it. And now we are using a kiboko. If you say, can I have a look at it? Can I read it? Say, you seem to be opposed to it. Can we look what is inside? You are either with us or against us. If the president on this side, you joke around. I remember one time the president said, if you're opposed to BBI, you're opposed to personally to him. And some of us will say, Your Excellency, we love you so much, but let's read it. Because at the end of the day, even if you think that your legacy will be you brought BBI, Kenyans still remember Kibaki for the roads. They don't remember that Constitution 2010 was brought in under his leadership. So for now, we don't know. And I think the real BBI is the one which will be handed in before June. If we are going at the rate at which you go, I know that you can actually force a referendum before the end of this year and then push people into it, into supporting it. What I can say is that there are certain amendments that if they sneak in there, one like increasing positions, some of us will be opposed to it. Whether we are few, we will register for the sake of our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. And I tell my president, our priorities, please, Mr. President, go back to our priorities: food security, jobs, and affordable quality healthcare. Please deal with the basic things like locusts and so on, before we dance in this rally.
Honorable Mtambo, I would consider yourself as a leader, as somebody who is in what we'd call a privileged position compared to majority of the Kenyans in terms of even having access to this document. Are you confident? Have you read it? Have you had access to it to a point where you can confidently say, this is a document that we're willing to pass, or this is a document that needs more?
The document President Uhuru Kenyatta and most of us went to launch in Bomas is perfect.
As it is?
As it is. What I'm seeing is that that document, which we saw in Bomas, is not what we'll take to.
What is making you suspicious? Because I've had this even on the podium of some of the BBI rallies, where I think has alluded to a BBI report B and C. What is making you suspicious?
I have a lot of reasons. I'm casting my aspersions because, one, if this document is what we were to take as the whole thing without adding or removing a comma, when the members of parliament said it is good, we pass it to law, we could have done so. That is question number one.
And meaning there will be no need for a referendum.
And there will be no need for a referendum. If there are some sections which requires a referendum, they would have been subjected to. Another reason why we are having rallies before, because these rallies, we are not advocating what we had in Bomas. We are crafting new. You have heard that before the rally, there is a consultative meeting whereby people are reading memorandums and saying we want this. In Bomas, there was no 3-that tire of government. We had that in Mombasa. And maybe when you come to Kambani, there will be also something else. You also heard my good friend saying that you want a free port in Kenya to be put in BBI. That is Honorable Kalonzo Musyoka. I don't know whether he knows the impact of in declaring Mombasa a free port. and that is part of the area where we get our revenues. So the reason why I'm feeling a little bit jittery that there will be something else, not what we got
in Bomas.
In Bomas. It's the narrative which is going around. And when you see Raila going himself in all this, is hoping from Kisii to Kakamega, from Kakamega to Mombasa, I will be with him in Kitui. Okay? It is because there is something else which we are anticipating. But if it is what we saw, they could have been genuine enough. We don't want many copies. Let them come, just like with the Bible. In the church, maybe it's only a pastor who comes with the Bible. And it says the book of the Lord says like this, and he reverses, and he's the only one reading. There could be that person with that report saying, we did not publish all of them, but this is what we gave in Bomas, and this is what we are campaigning for. We are campaigning for this document. We are campaigning for a document which has not been adopted yet. A document which we anticipate to bring forward. We are told that the committee of experts of Mr. Haji has been extended. It has not even started sitting. That we are telling them, whatever you guys sat and came up with, now we are drumming support to the public. You see? So that's why I'm having some few challenges here and there, that we are campaigning so vigorously out there, because to have somebody like, to have 24 governors, for God's sake, for 24 governors, to talk of something which will come.
It leaves you suspicious. Whether are you also, you've mentioned that there could be another BBI report, but given where we are now and the amount of support that we see the leaders that are putting forth for this particular one, what would it take for them to sneak in something? Would it take now the task force that was extended to be writing and doing another report? Because we assume that all those things, including what Mheshimiwa Mtambo has mentioned, Kalonzo Musyoka said, these are proposals that they're putting forth, and these are to be captured, then put into a formal legal document that can now be passed to the public.
What they will do is that the BBI team will now come up with a final document where they say, oh, we had your complaints. Some people said they were never listened to. Now we have listened to everybody across the country, and this is what we think is the final one. Now, in that one, now they'll sneak in a powerful prime minister. You'll sneak in a report that the Kenyan people want a powerful prime minister, 3 deputies. They want another provincial level of government. They want all these things. Meanwhile, the ground has been prepared. People have been told you agree with BBI. You have all declared. Kalonzo has declared, Ruto has declared, President has declared, Raila has declared, Wetangula has declared, we support BBI. So it comes in, this is the BBI report. Alongside it comes a constitutional amendment bill, almost in that same. And then now when you want to discuss the details, you are told, but you had said you support it. What's wrong with you? You are changing. Honorable Ruto, you are in. Now what is wrong with you? Honorable so-and-so. That is the Madogodanio being prepared. I think somebody somewhere does not want what is called universal suffrage, where there's one man, one vote. They want where somebody pens and has power through Parliament. Therefore, I can tell you that the BBI 2 is coming in the second report. The first one was, you remember at one time there was a team that was flip-flopping. Tangatanga was flip-flopping because they didn't know. But when it came out and they realized it was harmless, they embraced it. And their colleagues are the ones who said, no, we are suspicious. 2, the BBI, there was a time even Honorable Rango said, we want this, we want that, we want a parliamentary system, we want this. So looking at it, therefore, I will tell you that the BBI 2 is on the way.
Michael Agwanda, there are 9 points that when we had what we now refer to as the handshake that came up. I'll just name a few: ethics and antagonism, lack of national ethos, inclusivity, devolution, divisive elections, and all that. Do you feel that in this BBI report, in what the task force gathered from the Kenyans, these 9 points are still our main focus, or has that been diverted by politicians now to all manner of speech? Now we're looking at a referendum, which we may not as Kenyans fully understand whether it actually encompasses these 9 points.
Those 9 points, Michael, is what is bedeviling this country. National ethos is one of them. Inclusivity is one issue that perhaps this country has fought for a very long time, but we're still not finding. Recently, there was social media bringing one of the cabinet secretary, employing almost everybody in his department from his own home. That has been an issue. When we're talking about issues of election and election malpractices in this country, even if we change that office 10 times, but as a nation, we've refused to acknowledge that we want free and fair election, we'll still get the same result. The same result of fumbling with figures, some of them being hoarded in a foreign country, the server not being open. Even if we change it 1,000,000 times, now there are drums of IBC going home. If you take IBC home, who are you taking home? Are you taking the entire IBC and bringing somebody else? Or are you taking Chebukati and his few commissioners and saying, now go home, you've done your part, and leaving the secretariats who are the implementers of the big man's voice, do it this way, and you bring those results and we'll fix them in Nairobi. What are you changing until such a time that we'll agree as a nation that enough is enough, Michael, that election malpractice must stop. And it does not just stop. I was involved in an election malpractice in Homa Bay, and it was a court case that went through for years.
For years. Mm.
And I can tell you, Michael, none of those none of those electoral officials went to court and were jailed. None of them. And if they know for sure that we added a vote here and a here for this member of parliament, and then they went to court, but they only fought against themselves, the competitors only fought against themselves, and then we brought our report and were let scot-free, and nobody went to jail, the business will continue as usual. I feel that as a country, perhaps I know that the BBI is going to sell through, I know that referendum is going to sell through, but perhaps we need to look at ourselves and say, will the BBI change the way we do things? Yet, we know very well that there are laws in this country that nobody follows. We know very well that if you bribe a voter, you are actually supposed to be arrested and be barred from running for that position. Has IBC ever implemented that? Absolutely not. In fact, if they want to implement it, it will be interfered by the party and nothing will happen. I wish we could handle some of these issues that are in the 9-point agenda and say, how do we do this? We do it with the seriousness, and we say, if you've been to jail, you have no chance of being elected. You've been to jail. I mean, that's what our constitution says.
That's what it says.
Yeah,
all right.
But do we implement it? I really think that we are running away from the realities that are hitting this country every 5 years, and we want to be marooned in this big BBI thing without discussing the 9-point agenda that makes our children be killed
that brought us
every
where
5
we are
years.
right now. All right, Honorable Mtambo, we're going to take a short break briefly, but just to hear from you, in regards to the 9 points, how are they getting lost in the noise that is being made in these podiums? And what is unfortunate, in case Kenya forgets, is that come 2022, if we have not dealt with these conclusively, we go back right to where we were. Despite all the money that is being spent in those rallies, despite all the money that has been paid to this task force that has taken so long to get this information, their term has been added in terms of time. But if we don't deal with these 9, really, we are just going round in circles.
That is very true. And if the document we got from Bomas of Kenya is anything to go by, I want to tell you that those points, they are also not tackled. How? We have issue of inclusivity. We have issue of winner takes it all. In that document, it says that the party with the largest number, the one with the largest number in parliament, members of parliament, is the one which appoints the prime minister. Suppose the the president comes from that party. Have we cured that problem? To me, I think there's still more which need to be done to address that issue. But let me prophesy this. Forget about what you hear my good friend Murkomen talking in Mombasa. I want to tell you, the speech which Murkomen gave in Mombasa did not come from his heart. It came from his mind, because he's a brilliant person. He was in a situation. I found myself in a crowd, which if I say anything else apart from this, it will be hostile. So because Murkomen is a very wise man, he had to use his wisdom, okay, to craft a speech which accommodated everyone. But I doubt from Murkomen's bottom of his heart whether what he meant, what he wanted, what he means in his heart is what he said. So what I'm saying is this. The moment we'll get now all this report and this committee of experts come with another BBI, the one which Abros is calling BBI 2. And then that BBI 2 goes against what Murkomen and the rest want. Or, on the other hand, what Raila himself wants. I will tell you, that will be the parting point.
Where they will part ways.
That is where everybody will go its way in this BBI. And you will see so many people, some opposing, some are for. For now, I am not certain 100%, because people are saying we are supporting. But whatever they are supporting, since it is not the table, it is not on the table, let the old potato come and land on the table.
Then we take it from there.
It is.
All right,
this
I want us to take a short break, but when we come back, we'd also like to look at the meeting that is supposed to be taking place in Naivasha starting today. We're hoping to get Honorable Moses Kuria to just give us an update, since he is the one leading the team that's going to Naivasha. And also, the handshake goes to the US. We're going to be discussing that when we come back. We take a short break. We'll be right back.